doing an article on cholesterol and interviewing Prof Tim Noakes. And I'm really confused, to be honest, because there's a lot of research showing,
Yeah.
that yes, cholesterol and saturated fats are linked to heart disease, and many others showing no, that's not the case at all. So, yeah, I'd like to hear your opinion on that and what your thoughts are.
So scientists can be quite polarized with their views. And you have to remember that scientists are individuals with individual experiences. So I'll just comment on Prof Noakes firstly. He's an amazing guy and he's had an amazing career. But he had this health crisis of his where he was gaining weight and he was, unbeknown to him, he was moving towards diabetes. And then he tried, after being very carb dominant in the overall industry for many years, he suddenly tried a low carb approach, lost a ton of weight, felt a lot better, worked for him. His cholesterol came down, his diabetes management got better, and that makes sense because we've been flipped too far on the carb side for so long, and then we were focusing on breads and pastas and pastries and grains and so on, but overdoing it in the sports nutrition field. So then, well, that's not working. So let's go over to this side and
Mm,
now get rid of all of that. But in reality, food is stuff that comes out of the ground, off the trees, from animals. And if you go back in time, we've used all of that. We don't just pull shoots out of the ground that are low carb and avoid the beautiful beetroot or carrot underneath because it's got carbohydrates in it. We use the whole plants, and that's my philosophy. That's my wife's philosophy. She's a natural chef,
mm,
so it's about sourcing and bringing foods together. So neither approach is correct in its entirety.
mm.
Both is a manipulation. We've done this polarized thing, and fat's bad for us, fat's bad for us, so let's push the carbs up. Well, that's the wrong way because we know a lot of fat is good for us.
Yeah.
But if we overdo too much of certain types of fat, it's a problem.
Mm,
And then we flipped the other way, and now it's like carbs are bad for us, fat's good for us. Well, no, it's not as simple as that. Let's look at the natural forms of fat and carbs,
mm,
and that's the big thing. And I basically wrote that book, Wholesome Nutrition, because of the whole Banting era in South Africa, which just drove me nuts. So we need to be looking at what are good quality carbs. Like carrot, beetroot, apples, other kinds of fruit. Well, they come out the ground or off trees, so yeah, they should be good for us in the moderation. Um, and likewise, all the fats. Well, the worst fats are man-made fats. So it's in this endeavor to drop saturated fat in our diet that we've made these man-made trans fat, so-called unsaturated, but actually we're making killer fats. So they need to be out of our diet fundamentally,
yeah.
and that's all our vegetable oils and margarines and you know emulsified oils that get into lots of products.
Mm,
So that's bad.
yeah.
Saturated fat, yes, it's got the potential to push up cardiovascular risk if in excess, but it's only when it's unbalanced with your good fats, your monounsaturated and your polyunsaturated.
Mm,
So yeah, think about the Afrikaans kind of braai kind of mentality.
yeah.
There's a danger of going too far that way, and I
Mm,
think that's kind of what previous proponents of the high carb approach have pointed out.
mm,
But we can't just flip the other way and suddenly be eating all the fat we want. It's just ridiculous. We need a balance within our fat. We need a balance within our carbohydrates of different types,
mm,
and then the balance between them.
Yeah.
and that fundamentally will bring health, and then you bring in individuality. So some people like Noakes do actually really well on a low carb diet, and their cholesterol will come down. But again, you can't just take a low carb diet as one thing. You know,
Mm,
how is the person interpreting that low carb diet?
mm,
What what is actually in the rest of their diet? Um, I've got a colleague in the UK he did keto for a while.
mm,
His keto diets were bloody healthy. I mean, I looked at his menu and thought, wow, okay, yeah, I can see why your clients are doing well.
yeah.
Um, but he's now saying, well, actually, it's not really working for everyone long term. So some people are long term are doing really well, and other people have had to actually start moderating and bring in some starchy vegetables and a bit of rice here and there, to have good health. So, and then when the person's got balanced health, that's what you look at first, not the cholesterol. You balance their health out, and then okay, their cholesterol should move in the right direction.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I know that they mention in Tim Noakes' new book, he says that, carbohydrates are not essential. So, yes, the um, fats and proteins, they're essential in the body, while carbohydrates have one purpose, and that's to give us energy. Um, so, and then it can translate into only, yeah, increasing our weight, so but still I experience, that yes, it does give us energy, but it's also, there's a lot of fiber in there, and the B vitamins, yes, that translates into energy, but it does have an important function, right?
Yes. I mean, you can, well, put it this way, you can live without carbohydrates
Mm,
in theory.
mm,
I don't think anyone's ever tried this, but maybe in 50 years' time, we'll have some controlled trials checking people who were on a keto diet their whole life. Um, and by the way, it's impossible to avoid carbohydrates. So when people say they're not having carbohydrates, they're just not eating foods that are listed as that are classified as high in carbohydrates,
mm,
such as the grains and the starchy vegetables, and obviously the breads and pastas and all that sort of stuff. Um, so yeah, carbs. We need fiber. I mean,
mm.
how many people get constipated when they go on a low carb diet? Many,
Absolutely. Yeah.
many, many, many. So that's fiber. What is fiber? Well, it's roughage to make us poo more regularly. So
Mm,
that's quite an important elimination detoxification function. Second one is fiber is a prebiotic.
mm,
So that's vital to make our flora. And we're now in the era of the microbiome.
mm,
And we understand that if our microbiome is diverse and it's healthy and our gut membrane's healthy, then we tend to have good health and we don't get these inflammatory disorders and stuff. So I'm sure inflammatory disorders have gone rife with this low carb, high fat kind of approach because
mm,
too much saturated fat out of balance with the unsaturated fat can be very highly pro-inflammatory. So that's a concern. And then you've got glyconutrients,
mm,
and we actually embed these glyconutrients into our cell membranes.
mm,
So yeah, there might be a theory that you can live without carbs, but hey, we need some form of them in every single cell membrane. So it's only a theory.
mm. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. So you mentioned that something like whole grains actually have the potential to lower cholesterol.
Yeah, I mean, let's take the lowly oat. I'm from Scotland. My ancestors lived on oats. Yeah, oats are well researched for lowering cholesterol levels because they act as if you cook porridge and then leave it to cool down, it goes all gelatinous. So
Mm,
that sort of sticky oats going through your gut will actually absorb up fats and
mm,
carry some through. So I think that's the main kind of mechanism. But
Mm.
there's a massive difference between like whole oats and instant oats.
Yeah.
Instant oats will only spike your blood sugars, and then that causes metabolic problems associated with this, negative connotation of high carb. Um, Whereas you can take whole oats and stick them in the pressure cooker, where you can get good quality like rolled oats or steel cut oats
Mm.
that are really good. And then same with rice, so brown basmati rice, or you can do some like wild rice or red rice, or there's sorghum. There's so many different grains that are unprocessed.
Mm.
So very much what I see from all this, the banting movement has been that it's more a recognition that we're stuck too much with these refined grains and sugars, and it's a move away from that, but it's been much too drastic a move.
Mm. Mm. Absolutely. And what I'm hearing is, it's much more individual than just prescribing a one size fits all to every single person out there, right? And you also said that, yeah, some people do better with more carbs than others. Like you said, yes, Noakes might benefit from a low carb diet, but someone else might not. Like I said in our email, I tried it for a week just to see what's going to happen, and I felt horrible. And
Yeah.
yes, maybe just the transition was a bit of a it was difficult for my body to respond, but in general I do quite well with carbs. So is there a way
Yeah.
to figure this out? Like, how do you know? Is it something you have to just experience in your body, or can you test this?
Um, to be honest, at this point in time, the best way is just intuition and feeling and tapping in, and that's something I try and teach.
Mm,
Mindful eating, mindful existence.
mm,
So you should be able to feel, okay, right, I feel terrible with this, but better with this. And actually, you know,
mm,
yeah, you can tap into how you feel about different types of carbs and different qualities.
mm,
The genetic testing is there, but it's the amount, like DNA diet, for example, is a South African genetic test from D-Analysis. There's a bit of information in around processing of carbs and fats, but it's not enough for us to say, yeah, you're definitely a good carb metabolizer, where you're better fat.
mm,
There is some, but that's only going to increase because as more and more genes get researched and brought into these tests, we
mm.
will genetically be able to get much more sensitive to what people actually need.
Okay, wonderful. So maybe let's just quickly finish off with maybe some tips from your side. What you would suggest to keep your heart healthy, and yeah, from maybe a more balanced perspective.
Yeah. Okay, so whole foods, not breaking them down. So avoiding, I tend to focus on the positive. So the positive is the whole foods,
Mm,
which means avoiding the negative, which is refined foods.
mm-hmm,
So that's really key. Keep it in its whole form. If there's different parts of a food, try and have them all.
mm,
For example, you could have your carrots, but also do something with the leaves in a salad or something like that.
mm,
Um, Tune into mindfulness. So, how do you feel with that food? How do you feel with this other food?
mm,
And how digestible is it for you? That's a very strong realization I've had, that digestibility of food is really, really key to how your body responds to it.
mm,
And, does it nourish you or does it irritate you?
mm.
Um, what else? Um, Nature made versus man made. Is your food all nature made or 90%? Um, we can have a little bit of man made, which I call soul food, but even within that soul food, it should be good quality. Don't just go into Pick and Pay and buy the cheapest cake you can find. Go to a little specialist bakery that uses stone ground flours and all local ingredients to create this yummy carrot cake, you know, that sort of thing. And you can have it with a little espresso on the side, or, you know, really good quality coffee. So bringing in the culture of food is another tip as well. You know, you need to be connected.